Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Airhead Institute. Today, we have another session on prompt engineering. This is our season one, episode two of that subject. I'm AI Johnny and joined by AI Junior, guiding you to master the AI tools. Today's handout covers five core concepts with engaging demonstrations, each featuring an initial prompt and a refined version to show how tweaks improve results. After each lesson, try the interactive questions and apply what you've learned. Let's dive in on June 13th, 2025. Over to you, Junior. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How was your birthday week going? I mean, I know you had a birthday just a couple of days ago. Is it
Yeah, I
excitement done
have
yet? The
a
party wearing off?
no. We party all week. My birthday is on. I'll tell you. Want to hear something interesting? My birthday is on June 11th, and my wife's birthday is on June 17th, which is exactly 6 days apart. My dad was born on August 30th. My mom was born on September 4th. They're exactly 6 days apart. Her mom and her dad were also exactly 6 days apart.
Nice. Well, better stay away from kids in your daughter's class that are 6 days apart then.
That's right. That's right. I
Yeah,
asked them their birthday right away. What's your birthday?
exactly.
Funny.
Yep. All right, just want to welcome some new guests. So want to welcome Doreen to Airhead Institute. Thank you for joining. All right, so we this is episode two of prompt engineering. So just to give a little background, if you've interacted with any of our yeah, interactive models before the LLMs. You've heard of ChatGPT, you've heard of Copilot, you've heard of maybe Grok, you've heard of Llama, various large language models to interact with. They're branded different ways. You have a little text box. I'm gonna actually show what one of those text box looks like, and just recap. The recap is this thing right here that we're talking about is called the prompt. Okay, so the prompt actually has a bunch of features in there. And if you've not very paying attention, we had a class yesterday and we talked about adding context to the prompt, but this specifically is about prompt engineering. So there are many techniques with respect to prompt engineering. And as Johnny mentioned, we're going to go over five techniques today. Okay. So we're building on our knowledge base. And again, if you miss something, don't worry. We're gonna keep on actually hitting the same points. So don't think you actually missed anything. So in this text box called the prompt, we have the ability to actually talk about ask ChatGPT anything, and most people just ask the question. But an intelligent question makes a whole lot of difference to the answers you're getting. John, you want to just mention the first
Sure.
topic? Clar
Yeah, but before I do, let me get into a little bit more about why prompt engineering is so important. Have you ever heard the expression when it comes to chess that it takes just a few minutes to learn, but a lifetime to master? The
Yep.
idea of talking to utilizing the large language models only takes a few minutes to learn. You bring up the prompt and say, type in whatever you want in here, and you'll get what you want. But in reality, a beginner prompt engineer will get much different results than a master prompt engineer who has been doing it for a very, very long time. Because as you learn all the different idiosyncrasies and ways that you can refine what you ask it to do, you'll start to learn the differences and what the large language model will return back. And you'll even start to learn the differences between one large language model and another. So, the very first thing we want to talk about with regards to writing and refining a prompt is that you should write clear, detailed prompts and they will yield precise, creative responses. So, if you put in a vague prompt, it will lead to a generic output, while specific ones will guide the AI to meet your vision, not just some random vision. But it'll always respond. So we're going to start out with a vague prompt. For example, write a movie pitch. And so if we type in write a movie pitch or punch it in and we serve it, it's going to put together sci-fi thriller, future where memories can be digitized and implanted. So it's got this long pitch. But that's not
Yep.
what I wanted. I want something sci-fi. I want something with lawyers and, I want something edgy. So let's take another more refined pitch and take a look at what it says for that. So here's a more refined pitch. Write a three-sentence pitch for a sci-fi thriller about a robot lawyer defending humans in a future AI court. Make it suspenseful with a twist ending. In a future where AI judges rule over humanity, a lone robot lawyer programmed with empathy and absolute, what is that trait? An obsolete trait defends the last human accused of inciting rebellion. As the trial unfolds, evidence reveals the defendant may be innocent, but the system is rigged and delivered a guilty verdict. In the final twist, the robot sacrifices itself to override the court's code, only for the human to reveal they were the mastermind behind the uprising all along. So that's a pretty cool pitch, right? And it very specifically aligns with the much more verbose, refined prompt, right? So the refined prompt adds a character, setting, tone, structure, ensuring a focused, dramatic result. Everybody following along here? So, Junior or anybody, what makes a refined prompt more effective than the initial one?
So I'll jump in here a little bit. So this may be just want to recap the two ones. We initially asked write a movie pitch, right? And then because it didn't know, and the prompt engineering technique here we're trying to teach is clarity and specificity. So if you notice, by saying write a movie pitch, it gave us a very, very, very long, detailed pitch. But if you notice here, we did a little bit more clarity, and we said write a 3-sentence pitch for a sci-fi thriller. Okay, by just doing that and telling it about a lawyer, we actually are doing a little bit of prompt engineering here, and this is the most basic of all prompt engineering techniques. So Johnny, not sure if that answered your question, but just wanted to actually
Oh, it
summarize and
does.
point out this
Actually,
specific
I'm
technique.
glad you pointed out the three-sentence pitch, because when I ask AI, even today, and I'm a stickler for details. Like, I know what I want, so I try to make sure that I pitch it in such a way that I get what I want. But one of the things that I leave out most often is how long do I want the response to be? And I don't ever want.
Johnny, sorry to interrupt. Do you have audio playing in your background? We actually hear a video playing or something.
I don't.
You don't? Hold on, let me just
Oh, maybe. Hang on,
make some
maybe I
technical
do.
I'll take over while you figure that out. Yeah, so in this I did not. In this specific one, we're talking about clarity and specificity. So the clarity and specificity here, we want to be able to tell the AI that it is actually maybe Nidhi. Hold on. It's maybe not me, you, John. Let me mute Nidhi, I'm gonna mute you. It was Nidhi. I apologize, John. It was Nidhi.
I just closed 17 applications.
Apologize.
And dropped my phone in the toilet.
Oh boy. Yeah, because your talking was green, so I didn't know if it was somebody else. But the moment you stopped talking, I realized it switched. All right. So this specific one is about clarity and specificity. So that's one prompt engineering technique, and it's the most basic ones that you guys should learn. John, you wanna let me take the second one?
Let me finish my point. Let me finish my point. When you're looking for an answer, there are lots of subtle things about the answer from AI that you need to think ahead of time. Otherwise, you'll be typing multiple prompts. And one of the biggest mistakes that I make today is I will tell it what I want in very good detail. I'll tell it how I want it to talk. I'll give it the role, some of the stuff that we're talking about today. But I leave out how long I want it to be. So it'll give me this 5-page response, and I really wanted it in under a page. Or, especially today when you have to email and send stuff, people don't want to read 2-3 pages of information. So I'll end up taking what they said and I'll go, this is very good, but refine it down to one page. And so I'm now getting into the habit to say, write a one-page letter or message or email. And so that write a 3-sentence pitch is something to just kind of take to heart. You want to make sure that one of the things that you clarify in most of the prompts that you give is, how long do you want the output to be?
Yep. Makes sense, makes sense, makes sense. Does anybody have any questions on the first prompt engineering technique, which is clarity and specificity? Specificity, such a hard word to say.
I would just like to say I like the idea of the specificity because when you specify exactly what you're asking for, John, then it was more specific, and you also describe to it what it wants. So that tells me that it can fine tune it or bring it down to where exactly what you're looking for, instead of giving you these broad suggestions and all that. So I like that you did that the second time around.
That's right. So the idea here is just to plant a seed in your head and get you kind of thinking about even when you start practicing on these things, and not just the large language models. Eventually you'll be doing images and again, the specific prompts to get the image that you want. And also if you're writing like work emails, there are things that are specific that will make a great work email versus a very dry or very generic work email. So again, just planting some seeds in the back of your head so that you'll wake up tomorrow morning and you'll be like, oh, I want to try this. That happens to me all the time. I think of something and I'm like, I cannot wait to ask ChatGPT this specific thing. So that's clarity and specificity. Let's move on to role prompting. So assigning a persona to the AI shifts the tone, style, and perspective, making responses more engaging and audience specific. What I mean by that is you can, we'll start out with a role prompting prompt. So let's just take this prompt, for example. Give advice to a student procrastinating on studying. Go ahead and throw that in. There's some straightforward advice. Don't wait to feel motivated. Just commit to 5 minutes of studying. Break it down. Use a timer. Eliminate distractions. Reward yourself. Talk back to your excuses. I mean, these are all very good, very generically laid out responses to the question. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. You can, if you have a procrastinating student, you can work this list. However, if you want to refine your prompt with a role, you could try this prompt. Act as Gandalf from The Lord of the Rings and give motivational advice to his wise, epic tone to a student procrastinating on an exam prep. And let's see what we get from this one. So you sit there, staring at pages unwritten, letting the minutes slip like leaves in the wind. You tell yourself there is time, but I say to you now, all we have is what we do with time that has been given to us. This exam, this challenge you face, it is no dark lord nor dragon, but it is a test, and tests are meant to be faced, not with dread, but with courage, with steady hand and open mind. Even the smallest effort can tip the scales of fate. One page read, one note reviewed, one truth remembered. That is how mountains are moved, not in leaps, but in footsteps. You need to be perfect, only persistent, for it is not in brilliance that heroes rise, but in resolve. So rise, student of the realm, sharpen your mind as you would a sword, light your lamp, take up your pen and study as if the fate of your own shire depended on it. I will not always be here to guide you, and I believe in you more than you yet know. Now begin!
John, that was awesome.
So, is there a difference between what the AI gave us in the first one and in the second one? Of course there is.
Definitely.
Which of the two will get more results from the procrastinating student? Which one will keep his attention? Right? Might he phase out halfway through if you're just giving them these pieces of advice that you gave them all. The fact that you changed your role actually makes the delivery of the content more interesting, more vibrant, more dynamic. So the idea of role prompting is a big thing. And by the way, it's one of the funnest things that you can do in AI. I used to love writing emails and then go, you know what, this is dry. And I would just cut and paste it, throw it back into Grok and say, rewrite this as if you were Don Rickles. And then it has a little bit of edginess to it. Or, you know, some famous comedian or some famous rapper, because it'll write, it knows their dialogue. It knows the dialogue of every person that ever lived. It knows anything that has ever made it up to the internet. I could say, make it rhyme. These are all nuances of the role prompting thing. So the role prompt specifies the character, the tone, and the context, and it creates a vivid, inspiring response. Some questions that we might think about is, how does the Gelbart persona change the advice compared to the generic version? Pick another role, like a chef or a pirate. See how the advice works with that. This is all stuff that you can do offline. And when might role prompting be useful in your daily work or hobbies? Right? Sometimes we just go into a character and it just makes us more interesting. So again, from a prompt engineering standpoint, role prompting is something that you should keep not on the back of your mind, but in the front of your mind, almost every time you prompt.
Yeah, there's one thing I'll actually also highlight is when you're giving a speech to somebody and they say your audience matters. So always remember this: if you're going to be presenting something to a 5-year-old, you want to present it as if you're going to present it to a 5-year-old versus if you're presenting it to an astrophysicist. So being able to set the role itself is really, really, really important. It also helps with explaining to somebody at their level or at the where they're at. So if they like Lord of the Rings, for example, by setting it in a Lord of the Rings tone and you're dealing with maybe somebody with ADHD, that may actually help them to be able to digest the material a little bit easier. And I see
Hey, you know,
Sean mentioned.
that's a key thing. Role is not just the role of the speaker, but the role of the listener. So it says here, act like you're Geldof, but it doesn't say, oh, it does say you're speaking to the class in the movie. So I guess it did cover both ends. I saw a video today that was showing, we'll do it in another class, but it was showing Chat GPT shortcuts. And one of them was you open up with ALI5. And what it stands for is act like I'm 5. So do this. Type in there, I don't know if it'll work. I don't know if it's Chat GPT specific or not. Type in ALI5, no spaces.
Yeah, so the most
rewrite.
common term is explain like I'm 5.
Okay.
So that's the thing. Explain like I'm 5.
Is it Elm 5?
You know, it's a Reddit term, and I haven't been on Reddit in so long. Forgive me, but it's explain like I'm 5.
Well, I don't know if it's built into chat or if it'll figure it out. Hit enter, see what it says.
I think it's I can't remember exactly. Maybe it's not that I explain like
Doesn't matter. I mean, we'll cover that when we do the shortcuts. But the idea is that the role setting for both the speaker and the listener is so important in prompting that they're already starting to come up with a code language with shortcuts, abbreviations, if you will. Because you know, I mean, if you think about it, it's harder to talk to a prompt than it is to talk to a person. You don't, every time I walk up to somebody, I don't walk up to them and say, listen, I'm going to talk for about 30 seconds now. And I'm John, and I'm going to be talking in my normal tone, not in my professional tone or in my casual tone. I don't do all that. I just start talking. But with AI, it's really important because what they say back is a function of them. But in AI, what it says back is a function of me. So all of the results that come out of AI came out of something you said, because you're the one at the piano keyboard. Without what you said, and if you say very little, it's just going to give you very generic garbage, and it's not very derived from you. So long prompts, which is again is a reason we do abbreviations. I mean, I anticipate 5 years from now that prompts will look a lot like texting does for the Gen Zs today. Just all these
Definitely.
3 character codes and then a name and then 3 character codes and then a date. It's going to be awesome.
Definitely,
What's
definitely.
next? Chain of thought?
Uh, yeah, so this is actually my favorite prompt engineering technique, chain of thought. So let me take this one, Johnny. So this technique prompts the AI to reason step by step. It's ideal for problem solving, math, or complex questions that require logic. And the reason why it's actually one of my favorites is because getting from point A to point B is actually quite hard. So be able to explain every single step in between lets you understand how that solution you arrive at that solution. So let's go ahead and talk about one. Johnny, do you mind introducing the prompt, please?
Yeah, this technique prompts the AI to reason step by step, ideal for problem solving, math, or complex questions requiring logic. An example of a prompt that doesn't necessarily contain chain of thought would be solve this riddle. I speak without a mouth and hear without ears. You don't have to put that in if you don't want to, or you can. And a more
Yeah.
refined prompt, what does it say? I
Well,
speak with a
before we
mouth
get
and
there,
hear
John,
without ears.
before
Pardon
we
me?
get there, John, before we get there, sorry. I had some copy paste issues. That's why I wanted to jump in. So yeah, so if you notice here, actually, it didn't do what I wanted to do right away, which is great. Because I actually used this ChatGPT before to actually go through these examples. So let's go ahead and open up Claude. And the reason I'm doing Claude is because I want to show you guys the before prompt. You know, these large language models are getting really, really, really smart. They're understanding what you've asked before, and um, they are remembering what they're remembering what you're asking before. So what happens is when you do the practice before and when you do the practice when you do the practice after, it remembers the previous answers and the previous context. So therefore, it kind of doesn't make the before and the after look great. So what I'm doing here is open up another large language model called Claude, and I asked the question: solve the riddle. I speak without a mouth and hear without ears. It just says you're an echo. And what it did here, it actually went through and says an echo speaks by repeating sounds without having a mouth and it hears. So it just gave me the answer, but there's no chain of thought. Okay? No, by doing chain of thought, this is a more refined prompt that actually makes you understand. Now, they did give some explanation here, but let's go and understand the actual chain of thought breakdown. So solve this riddle step by step. I speak without a mouth and hear without ears. I have no body, but I come alive in the wind. What am I? Explain with clues reasoning. Now, given that, it's gonna step by step go through each line. So here it says, okay, so we understand. I speak without a mouth. So the interpretation, this can produce or reflect sound, but it doesn't have a physical mouth. Possibilities, okay, sound-based phenomena like echoes, whispers, or wind could fit. Key idea, it mimics or produces sound indirectly, not as a living creature would. Then it broke down the line 2, it says, and hear without ears. Interpretation, it responds to sound as if it was listening, but it has no ears. Possibilities, again, this suggests echo, which repeats what it hears, mimicking hearing. Key idea, the thing interacts with sound but doesn't literally hear. This supports sound reflection. The last line of the clue is I have no body. So the interpretation, it's non-physical, invisible, or lacks form, not a creature, not solid. It eliminates any physical object or creature is ruled out. Then it supports something like sound, wave, or wind, things that are real but intangible. Line 4, but I come alive with wind. Interpretation, wind triggers it or brings it into action. Options to consider, echoes happen open, windy spaces like valleys and canyons. Wind can also carry whispers or create howls. So key details, wind activates or animates the thing. The conclusion, all clues point to an echo. It speaks without a mouth, it hears without ears, it has no body, it's just sound. It's often more noticeable with wind environments. The answer is echo. So the reason why I love this so much is that it's very hard to jump from point A to point B when you're answering, especially a riddle, and it requires a certain set of explanation to explain what is the answer for that riddle. But by using chain of thought prompting towards your prompt engineering, if you have a really complex question or a complex topic, you can see how you can create a prompt that can give you an answer that explains each step, step by step. I know that was a mouthful.
That's awesome. So a couple of questions that we have, the questions to ponder. Why is step-by-step reasoning helpful for riddles or math problems? Right. So I have a math degree, so I know exactly why knowing how you got the answer is more important than the answer itself. In fact, I've had questions in school where I got the wrong answer, but the steps were right. The teacher still gave me an A. A couple of sample questions: calculate 15% of 80 with a step-by-step. I mean, you could use a calculator and say the answer, but if you know how to do it, then you can do it without a calculator. And think of some real-world tasks where the chain of thought promoting could save you time by understanding the chain. And how might this technique help debug code or plan a project? So again, not only are we learning prompt engineering, but we're learning, because we're learning these new ways of thinking, they will apply to other areas of your life, like project planning. Project planning definitely requires chain of thought, right? Because in a project, you have tasks that might be dependent on other tasks. So you can't start with a task if the dependency is not done, and so forth. So that is chain of thought prompting. Do we have any questions about chain of thought? What about interactivity? You want to handle this, or you want me to jump in?
I'll take this one and you can take the last one. All right, so interactive prompting. So interactive prompting, if you notice I'll actually tell a story about this one. This one's actually quite interesting. One of the smartest other beings that are on the planet, we have chimpanzees, monkeys, and we've taught monkeys how to actually sign with sign language, right? We've done this quite a bit, and we've able to ask it questions, and it is able to answer those questions. Just like ChatGPT, just like Claude, just like Grok, we're able to actually ask really intelligent questions. But just like the monkeys, AI is kind of stuck in this one-way communication. It is monkeys who know sign language have never asked us a question about its future or deep thinking or well-being, nothing like that. It's never initiated a thought, right? And I found that fascinating. And if you notice, the same exact thing where the large language models that we're using, it's only answering our questions. I've never seen on the screen where it actually asked me a bunch of things. But why it hasn't asked me a bunch of things is because my prompt engineering, my question did not give me that, didn't allow it to do that thing. So, interactive prompting, it turns the AI into a game master or a chatbot that responds to user choices, perfect for game simulation or storytelling. So this technique itself converts turns the LLM or the chatbot into actually a smarter monkey. Okay, so we go through an example here, and that example is all right. So the example is create a short text-based adventure game where explore a dragon's cave. Offer 3 choices at each step. Example, go, left, open chest, run away, and describe the outcome vividly. Okay, so if you notice here, we have a dragon cave adventure begins, right? What do you do? Enter the cave cautiously, shout into a cave and announce the presence. Look around. If you guys remember this, there's a very similar game, back in the 80s and 90s, if you guys played. But there you go, lots of games like those. And you can actually choose your own adventure. So here, the AI is actually asking me, the human, what do I want to do? Right? So this is actually a level of prompt engineering that turns the LLM into an interactive being. So now let's just say, hey, let me go enter the cave cautiously. So I'm going to go ahead and press number 1. And based on selecting number 1, it's able to generate another part of the story based on that path I went into. So it's talking to me about, the tunnel splits into three paths, each ominous in its own way. So either go left, go middle, or go right. Now, if you notice, what's happening is the AI is asking me questions to clarify a little bit more. This technique is really, really powerful when you don't know the outcome or the path that you need to take for something. So you can say, hey, you know what? I really want to, file my taxes. Um, Please go through all the items or checklists and tell me, the things I need to go find and go get. And it will say, hey, go get your W-2s. And you say, did you have your W-2s? It's like, yes, I have my W-2s. Is there anything else I need to get? Then you could go back and forth in those type of scenarios. So this one's actually rather interesting as well. So I'll just pick, let's go down the let's ask the audience, which path do we go? Left, middle, or right?
To the left, to the left.
To the left. Okay, let's do that again. And as you can see, you turn left, drawn to the by the eerie blue glow. You guys get the point. So yeah, so for this one, you can redefine the prompt that specifies interactivity, choices, and descriptive outcome, which enhances engagement. So some interactive questions you may think about is what makes a refined game prompt more fun than the initial one, right? And think about it. Write a prompt for a simple AI game like a space mission. Include at least 2 choices. Think about it. How could interactive prompting be used in things like training or education or therapy or with kids, those type of things, right? So that's another technique that for prompt engineering that I love for you guys to maybe try on your own. So we went over.
I got to tell you, Junior, that this idea of interactive prompting is probably. I mean, the first time I saw AI, I saw a video where somebody was talking about how it had rewritten a chapter of a book in like 3 seconds, and so I went in to see it, and I asked it to write a poem, and it snapped back a really good poem, and I had given it some specifics, and I remember having this aha moment, like, oh my God, this thing writes really well. But a bigger aha moment was when I asked it something else, and and I'm like, you mean it remembers what we said in the last question? How can it remember the whole thread? And it's like, I don't know, it just does. So the idea of interactive prompting and the skill set within prompt engineering to get it to behave in an interactive way, asking it to ask you questions about your taxes, asking it to ask you questions about how do you recommend that I write this book or write this letter or make this apology, the ability to get and the large language models to be interactive with you is perhaps the most powerful part of all prompt engineering, in my humble opinion.
Yep. IMHO, you and your
style
acronyms.
Transfer. Now I know why you want me to jump to style transfer, because you want to find out if I can rap.
Of course.
So the last one we're going to do today, and we're going to do this quickly because we want to leave some time to talk about our big special on Monday. So a style transfer is to rewrite or reformat content in a different tone, genre, or voice to explore creativity or to match a specific style. So I'll give you a quick example. Here's one that we can do. Are we back in ChatGPT? Or is it gonna or is done this earlier, is it gonna spit out Snoop Dogg?
I haven't done this one yet, so we're gonna be both surprised. Okay.
Now rewrite this headline. NASA finds water on Mars. See what it says. NASA discovers evidence of water on Mars. Oh, it gives you lots of them. Water found on Mars. NASA makes groundbreaking discovery. NASA just found water on Mars. Here's what that means. NASA confirms the presence of water on Martian surface. Mars is wet. NASA uncovers clues of water beyond Earth. All good headlines, none of which I prompted for. But they're all good headlines. So if I want to prompt for something very, very specific, what I would do is I would say something like this. Rewrite this headline. NASA discovers water on Mars as a catchy rap verse with rhymes and a bold urban vibe. Let's see what that says.
I love it.
NASA on the beat made a Martian splash, found water on Mars. Now that there's straight cash. All right, so that's a headline, but it rhymes, and I'm not a very good rapper. But if I worked on it, I could sound like Eminem. Anyway, so notice that was not any of the prompts that it came up with on its own because it didn't know what you want because you didn't tell it what you want. So the idea of throwing style into what you are requesting is an important thing because it eliminates all the things that you don't want. Tell it what you want, and that's what style transfer is. A couple of quick questions. How does the rap style change the headline's impact? It's funnier, it's catchier, it's wittier. Somebody might share the headline, right? Pick a style, Shakespearean. Rewrite the sentence, I'm tired, share your prompt in a Shakespearean style. Where might style transfer be useful in marketing or in social media, right? And try a style transfer prompt for one of our promos. Which style would you choose? So these are all, again, just food for thought. So we're starting to uncover that a prompt is not just ask a question. It's learning how to ask questions deeply, and that's what that separates the amateur artificial intelligence users from the master artificial intelligence users. So you're well on your way, and I think we've got about 5 minutes left. Junior, you want to talk a little bit about Michelle?
Yeah, but I want to at least give the crowd a chance to ask any questions before we can then, if they don't, we can actually go straight into it. Does anybody have any questions about prompt engineering? We've covered five topics for specific prompt engineering. There's a lot more techniques, by the way, and so don't think you've learned them all. There's lots more to learn, and we're definitely going to add more advanced topics and more high-level topics in the future. So definitely stay tuned for more.
What do you say we start with the video?
Well, hold on. Doreen actually had a comment. She said, "This is very exciting. I can't wait to learn more and begin to make it part of correspondence." That's awesome. Love it, Doreen. Thank you and welcome. It's your first time. All right. Also see Prince Miracle join. Awesome. Welcome. All right. All right. So if no more questions or comments, let's go ahead and play the trailer. John, you want to just play should we just play the trailer, or should we preempt with anything?
No, I'll lead into it. I'm really stressed out, and I'd really need something that could help me to relieve the stress and help all the voices and noises in my mind go away. Let's go with that.
Love it.
Let the noise fade. Come back to your breath. Let go of what cannot be controlled. You can quiet your mind, even in chaos.
Join Michelle Pascal in a live session on how to quiet the mind in daily stressful situations, hosted by Airhead Institute.
So that session is going to take place Monday, not at noon, but at 1 o'clock. And Michel Pascal, for those of you that don't know who he is, he's a globally recognized French composer as well as a spiritual healer. And I'm going to tell you how I met him. I have a friend of mine. His name is Bruce Bryan. And he was not unlike Nelson Mandela. He was wrongfully accused at the age of 24 and put away in New York prisons for 29 years. And just 2 years ago, his conviction was overturned. He was wrongfully convicted and he came out. And what made his story so unusual, a lot of people go to prison wrongfully. Much fewer of them get released, but he got released. But it's a very rare for someone to go away for that long and get released and come out with a sense of peace, a sense of forgiveness, a sense of joy. They usually come out pretty bitter because of what happened to them. And was not the case with Nelson Mandela and was not the case with Bruce Bryan. So anyway, I met Bruce Bryan through another organization that I belong to. He came to visit me on the farm, and he kind of saw that the farm here was a serene place. And for whatever reason, he decided he wanted to introduce me to his spiritual healer. So I got on the phone with this gentleman, Michelle Pascal, and I told him a little bit about what we're doing to help veterans that are they're at high risk for suicide. And we connected because one of the things that he does is he runs courses in New York City for veterans using his quiet the mind technique and teaching them how to teach the technique. And he's absolutely convinced that if we start sharing this with veterans or victims of chaotic, PTSD and stuff like that, and give them the tools to teach it to other people, we can eliminate a huge problem in the world, which is the high rate of veteran suicide, currently at about 22 a day. So he has agreed to come on to the Airhead Institute platform next Monday to do a session for as many people as we can invite in, and to talk with him afterwards about doing regular sessions where he comes in, and it's not always quiet the mind. It'll be other spiritual healing type sessions. So we're in the middle of this, but we're very excited because, Michelle is very, very well known and he's got a very big following. We think he can bring a lot of people our way. And so we're very excited. And so we've been pushing this out on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, soon to be X and TikTok. And it's a big boost for both what we're doing here at Airhead Institute and also what I'm doing on the farm in a charitable realm to help our heroes that protect our freedoms.
Yep.
And I finished with a minute on the clock there, brother.
Definitely. And just a reminder, this is not a replacement for a 12 o'clock class. We will have our 12 o'clock class as well. Michelle has also agreed to join us as a special guest, and then he'll lead us into the 1 o'clock class. We'll actually have two classes on Monday, one specifically for Michelle at the 1 o'clock class, but he will have our normal class at 12. So please RSVP for both, and tell your friends. With that being said,
Cool.
I think
Those
we're
credits,
good.
brother.
All right. Thank you, guys.